What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the 182 News Podcast. This is your host, poppincurbs, and you are listening to the worst podcast in the history of the world. Today, we've got some brand new Blink-182 to talk about. It's always a good day when you've got new Blink to talk about, or just talk about Blink, period. The last episode was the tour podcast, so I reflected on the recent shows I had went to. I am still trying to nail down just why I enjoyed this tour so much better than the last, and I still can't pinpoint it. It has to be the set list. I even had some folks reach out after that episode. They felt the same way. Really couldn't pinpoint it, but really enjoyed these shows. I hope you all had a chance to catch them. They are finally on a break. I saw the other day they played Reading and Leeds and then ended it up with some shows in the UK, but I was cracking up. The one review I saw of the Reading and Leeds Festival was a letter to the editor, and it said, Blink-182 were so unbelievably vile. And I'm thinking, I don't know that they've ever heard or seen these dudes before. What do you expect? Now, to be fair, my mom would probably say the same thing if I took her to a Blink show, but that's why I don't take my mom to a Blink show. So it seemed like huge shows over there. I love seeing the pictures. I love seeing everybody talk about all the great times they had seeing this band live. And I just really hope everyone had a chance to catch them on this stretch. I suspect we'll see some downtime, but we shall see. So go back and listen to that one if you haven't yet. Today, we are going to talk about One More Time, Part 2. The end of that last podcast, there was a Monday coming up where some sort of announcement was going to be made about this deluxe edition or part 2. I didn't think we would get the full album just being a Monday. It was kind of random. We did not. However, we did get some information that day that was huge. At the time, we thought there would be around 7 new tracks. Actually ended up being 8. So we got the full track list. And it did include Cut Me Off and See You, which is cool because my hope was we would eventually get those on a vinyl or CD or cassette. And along with that, we got some new information regarding physical releases, and that was in the form of 2 vinyl being released. One includes both the OG One More Time and the new bonus tracks, or the Part 2. And then there was also more or less a standalone Part 2 version, which was cool. So I love that. We got the album cover. I wasn't sure if it was going to be like the gray version of the Smiley edition or what they would come up with. And the Part 2 cover is a picture. They're each in the same slot, and it's them as kids, which I think is really cool. It's kind of sweet when you look at it. So I was kind of stoked that there weren't a million different, variants to pre-order and such. I'm getting ready to go on vacation. I shouldn't drop $300 or $400 on different presses. I feel like the vinyl game nowadays is just out of control. I got into vinyl several years back because it was $15 to $20 a vinyl. Now we're talking $40 to $50 a pop. It gets kind of hard to variant collect these days. So we've got the 2 physical releases. It said those were going to be shipped, I want to say, by the end of the year. It had like December 31st or something listed. I would guess they would ship sooner than that. They probably just wanted to list that worst case scenario. Seems like vinyl plants are still pretty backed up, so I don't know how quick they can get those out. But, when you think about, Mark said they had just sent, Can't Go Back to mastering probably 4 or 5 weeks ago at this point. So they really couldn't start making these until all the songs were officially turned in and signed off on, of course. So hopefully those come in hand sooner than later. They're not going to be in hand, on release day. We know that. So at the end of that last podcast, I think I had a Green Day concert coming up. That was rad. I had never seen Green Day, one of those bands that I feel like everybody should see. I've always wanted to see. It just never lined up. Went to a show with them, the Smashing Pumpkins and Rancid, which was rad. This was in Cincinnati at their baseball park, Great American Ballpark, which I've been to a million Reds games there. So it was really just surreal to walk in and see these bands playing a ballpark. We lucked out with the weather. It was amazing, but we were in the pit right up front and it was smooth. Like how they had that all set up. There was porta potties, plenty of places. If you had to go take a quick leak, you could still hear the band. You could still see the band. There were different bars off to the side. So I was kind of worried that you may have to run up and get your drinks and come back to the field, but they had this all figured out. It was honestly amazing. Really cool night, seeing Rancid with Tim Armstrong, legend. Not that I follow the Smashing Pumpkins a ton, but I definitely like some of their music, so it was cool to see them. I had never seen them live. And then Green Day put on a killer spectacle, I'll call it. It's interesting, a lot of people give Blink shit about a 1.5 hour set. And I've always heard, the Foo Fighters and Green Day, they play for 3 hours. And in my mind, I've always thought, gosh, that seems like a long show. I will say, I thoroughly enjoyed Green Day's set. It was amazing. We were right up front. They sounded great. All of the background visuals and all that shit was awesome. I did feel it was just a tad long. I think they played 2.5 hours. I gave this set my all. I was in the pit. During Longview and Brain Stew, I was going crazy. I got knocked down, but I got up again. I got punched in the face. It was fine. And at the end of that, I get out. I'm gassed. I'm thinking, all right, I just gave this every ounce of my soul. We've got to be nearing the end here. I asked my brother-in-law, who I went with, I'm like, okay, how many more songs do they have? He's like, oh, they're still playing for 1.5 hours. I'm thinking, 1.5 hours? I need some fucking water. Holy hell. So it was a long show when you've been standing for literally 6 or 7 hours. I always say that I'm New Balances in the pit years old. I think I might be Hoka in the pit years old coming soon because it just made for a long day standing. But overall, it was super sick. And if they're near you, I don't know when that tour ends, but if they're near you, go see it. And I am very much in approval of these baseball field punk rock shows. It's really rad. The next show that I had been looking forward to was New Found Glory. So Ian Grushka, bass player, he's been on the podcast. Go listen to that episode if you haven't. Really just some cool insight to the early days of Blink. But he and I have become pretty good friends, really, since I had him on the podcast, which is rad, and went up there or down there to Nashville and caught them. They're on their Catalyst 20th anniversary tour. This was the last show of Stretch 1. And it was awesome, just kicking it with Ian and talking to the band. They do some really cool VIP stuff. I got to see the sound check. I got to see the acoustic VIP stuff. Their opener impressed me quite a bit. Sincere Engineer, they were awesome. One of the cool things was Chad, their lead guitarist. He has not played this whole tour. He's been battling a gnarly form of cancer for quite some time. And he had only played one show prior on this stretch in, I want to say, Columbus. And this was more or less his hometown show in Nashville. And Chad, who's going through chemo right now, got up there and crushed this set, which was cool to see. So it was overall just an incredible night, awesome show. They have a little bit of a break, and then they go out for a second stretch. So catch New Found Glory if they're near you. Just the nicest dudes and just a killer set that they put on. The only beef I had with it is when we were trying to find some food, there's only one food place at this venue. I don't even know if I'll name said venue. I don't want to stir up any shit, but it was a bummer. My brother-in-law and I, we went to the show and we were absolutely starving. And in this area, which is a really cool rustic area, there's no food, like no food. I looked it up on maps and it said there was a bar stool, like dive bar nearby. And we were like, sweet, we got a little break. We walked over there. It was abandoned, vacated. We saw in the venue, the only food they have was hot dogs. Now, I've been to a lot of shows. I've been in a lot of standing shows, a lot of pits, a lot of mosh pits. There has never been one time where I've just really wanted a chili dog before a mosh pit. So we were trying to avoid said hot dogs. We walked east, west, north, south, praying for any other type of food. We finally found one place that had a pizza sign. I'm thinking, oh, hallelujah. Let me go get a slice of pepperoni pizza and we'll be good. We walk in, the oven had just shut down 30 minutes prior. We kept asking people, hey, is there any food around here? Oh, there's a hot dog place inside the venue. Oh, there's a really good hot dog. I don't want a fucking hot dog before the punk rock show, okay? We go back. We're stuck with the hot dog place. And I'll tell you, for a hot dog, it was decent. I'll give it that. However, it did fuck my stomach up. It was a bummer. The drive home was not pleasant. And I am just begging somebody, if you are in this area, if you're in the Nashville area and you have always dreamt of opening up a nice little taco stand or some food stands outside a venue, please, for the love of God, go to this venue and set up a taco stand. You would make so much money. I'm telling you now, I could have went for a taco. I could have went for a gyro. I could have went with a bag of Frito-Lays, for God's sake. Anything but the hot dogs. Please, for the love of God, it's mind-boggling to me. And I've been to that venue 2 or 3 times now, and I'm like, how does this hot dog stand have a monopoly? How is this the only food within 4 blocks of this venue is a hot dog? I can't even believe it. I can't believe it. Let's transition to Blink after my hot dog flavored water rant. Okay, Blink is off tour. That's awesome. We had the One More Time Part-2 announcement. You know, Mark had mentioned this really the first day of tour, along with one of the new songs, Can't Go Back, which I will hit on. And this is one that I just could not wait to hear the official version of. I had really avoided spoilers on this. Early on, we got All in My Head and No Fun, which I will hit on. Obviously, we knew Can't Go Back from the live versions. But I had really tried to avoid some of the spoilers leading up to this because I feel like it was sneaking up so quick, kind of quietly. Like even this week, I was surprised there weren't more people. I didn't see a ton of posts about it or more people hitting me up about it. And I saw that, I want to say last week, there were some teasers that were out via TikTok, I believe. I'm not on the TikTok. Don't want to be on the TikTok. Not clicking on the TikTok link if you send me said TikTok. Every time somebody shows me a TikTok, it's just fucking loud and not funny, and I don't like it. So I avoided those. I was thinking, you know what? I've been kind of busy. I don't want to hear just a snippet. I want to wait and hear these full songs. So I don't know how much of those songs were out or if it was all of them or whatever. I didn't click on it. Now, the official release day is here. We've got these songs, and I will say yesterday there was a text message that came out. And once again, it was, you've got 182 minutes to listen to the songs. I was thinking it might just be a little clip. However, it was 2 full songs. The first being Can't Go Back. And then I was able to get in and listen to Can't Go Back, which was sick. I will go track by track on these here in a minute. However, I could not get Take Me In to load, and the server crashed and everything was terrible. So I did not get a chance to fully take these in until release. And I know these dropped as soon as shit drops over in New Zealand. It's out everywhere, and you can VPN in, and they end up being posted everywhere. And I think at that point, the band and the label and everybody understands that they're out there. It should be exciting. You know, fans are just stoked to listen to this stuff. We've been looking forward to this for some time. So we did get quite a few of these ahead of time. However, there were still 3, 4 that we hadn't heard really at all. So that's cool. I'm going to go through these track by track and just give some of my initial thoughts on these. I did not listen to these multiple times, the ones that just dropped today. And I just wanted to listen to them on my headphones and jot down initial reactions. Obviously, like most of you all, I will continue to spin these nonstop, probably for the next several months. So to kick this off, I'm going to go in order of the tracks. One is Cut Me Off, which I don't feel like I need to hit on the first and second track too much because they've been around forever. You know, we've had these for a long time. Cut Me Off is one that I will still listen to occasionally. I still think it's pretty fun. However, number 2 here, See You, is still one to this day that I just absolutely love and go out of my way to listen to all the time. I think this song is so underrated. It really, really is. I mean, I will take this song over probably 70 to 80% of the album. In fact, I was really trying to set up time with the dude Esteban who runs Blink-182 Chile. We were trying to do an episode rattling off our top 3 One More Time OG songs in order. And he and I have just not been able to sync with our schedules. He's busy with job and kids. I'm busy with job and kids. Haven't been able to make it happen. But See You, it's up there. I don't know that it would crack top 3. And to me, maybe I'll just save it. But the top 3 to me for One More Time, the more I thought about that conversation when we were leading up to it, it's so easy for me. The top 3 One More Time OG tracks for me are so easy. There's a couple 4, 5, 6 that were kind of close. See You would probably fall in there, but it's not the top 3, that's for sure. But to me, I'm just shocked that this didn't make the original album. Maybe just the way it sounds, it didn't quite fit in with some of the others, but I think this song is absolutely amazing to this day. I mean, when they kick in during that chorus and Travis kicks in and they get going, I mean, it's goosebumps for sure. Track number 3, No Fun. So we did get All in My Head and No Fun really at the same time. We thought maybe we would just get one song. We ended up getting the 2. I had listened to All in My Head first, and then I went to No Fun. And I will say this, No Fun has had to grow on me just a little bit. Now, I like this song from the very first listen. I dug it. It's different. At the beginning, it's very Angels and Airwaves. You know, that sound and Tom talking on that intro. It's very AVA. However, it's very Blink lyrically. And that's what's kind of cool. And that's kind of my takeaway on this whole One More Time, really era in general, but specifically on some of these Part 2 songs is I feel like the band is just getting more comfortable bringing together like either the Simple Creatures or Plus 44 or Boxcar or Angels vibes all into one. And it's blended so beautifully that there's some songs where you really can't even tell who wrote it. You know, it used to be if you hear a Tom song or there was Angels influence, it was Tom. And if you hear Mark coming in first, Mark wrote it. Back in the day, if whoever wrote the song sang it, you could really tell that way. But at this point in time, I feel like they're really just in unison and together so much and collaborative so much that you're starting to really hear those influences blend together in just this 2024 version of Blink. So it's really cool. So the intro there, you know, right away I was thinking, okay, this is very Angels. And then that guitar kicks in and it's a very Tom riff. It's a very Blink riff. And to me, and I've said it so many times, this is exactly where Tom was telling us he was going with Blink on that Demos, Odds and Ends album. It to me, that riff and that kind of section there, it reminds me of When We Were Young on the One More Time, where it sounds exactly like guitar tone wise and just the riff wise, exactly where Tom was telling us he was going to try and take Blink. And so I thought that was really cool. The first time that I heard it, I really couldn't quite follow what Tom was saying with the lyrics. He's kind of spitting there and it's kind of hard to understand what's going on. But I'll tell you, the more I have listened to this one and the more that I pulled up the lyrics and read them and followed along with it, that actually made the song that much better to me. And I'm going to read through some of these lyrics. It really started reminding me of lyrically like a rite of spring, where Tom is reflecting on his life and, you know, talking through his own lens, not of somebody else, not telling a story. It's biographical. It's Tom reflecting on his own life and truly spilling out how he feels about things. And we don't always get that with Tom. You know, sometimes it's more thematically, or they're talking about a specific story or girl, or I remember Matt Skiba saying once, he always has to write with a muse in mind, like a story in mind, a female perspective or a story, love story, something along the lines of that. And you'll find that this comes up in some of these songs where they're kind of writing more or less as the feelings that just people may have in general, not necessarily their own. But as I was reading through some of the lyrics on this, it was really cool when you're following along with it. It's, he's saying whatever happened to us since the 90s when punk was independent and then it wasn't, and everyone became a part of that scene. I really like the part where he says, fuck, we really set it off and pissed them off. He's talking about Blink blowing up and doing whatever the fuck they want. Touring in the band when I was only 18. So right there, that's what kind of reminded me more or less of Rite of Spring, where he's reflecting on his life and talking about kind of the good old days. And then, that second verse where he comes in and he says, your plan was overrated, and when you made it because you were young, you wouldn't know a damn thing. A marriage simulated will get deflated. That may be alluding to his situation. He's talked openly about a divorce. This line really stuck out to me quite a bit. He said, the friends you have will have a kid and never be seen. That's just something that kind of comes with this walk of life. I've been dealing with that. I just went to a baseball game for my son the other day, and now through sports and family functions, I'm running into some of my old friends that I used to hang with all the time. There were 2 friends I just saw at the game. I hadn't seen them in 4 and 5 years. Reason being, we grew up, have families, have kids. You don't have time. You don't see people. It's sad in a way. It's just a different stage of life. And it's something that, my wife and I are still trying to figure out, and you struggle with it and you deal with it, and it's kind of just part of your 30s or whenever, it's tough. I feel like a lot of people can kind of align with that and feel that what he's saying right there. It is what it is. The next line there, your job is never good enough or cool enough. There's never passion in a deadly routine. Man, I think so many people can vibe with that. That is something that just stuck out to me is really, really important. It's just people getting day-to-day routines, and to some extent it sucks. Like, people don't always love what they're doing. I hope that most of you are in some sort of career where you find passion and are having fun and really enjoy it. But for the vast majority of people, that may not be the case. You're working for a paycheck or to support yourself or your family. So it's just part of life. It's kind of a bummer. Like, I've thought about that a little bit. It's kind of a bummer that a lot of your life, you're doing shit you don't want to do. You're waking up when you don't want to wake up. You've got responsibilities that you don't necessarily want to deal with. And then you're too tired to do anything at the end of the day that you enjoy. It's kind of a vicious cycle. And then years float by, and all of a sudden you wake up, you've got gray hair, and you're trying to save up a retirement fund, I guess. I don't know. I'll kind of figure that part out, I guess, when you get there. But overall, I thought No Fun was rad. And even this morning, I woke up with that in my head. There's no fun anymore. That in and of itself, that kind of ties in with what I just talked about. You get older, adult, jobs, responsibilities, you may feel that way. So I thought that song was really cool. It has grown on me a ton since my initial listen on that, for sure. The other song that came with that one early is All in My Head. And my God, this song is so good. I mean, the very first listen on this, and Mark starts off with the little talking part. I'm a tiny speck of nothing, and then I'm the entire universe writ large, which is kind of trippy to think about. I don't know if that's from a famous philosopher, Jesus. You could tell me that was in 2 Corinthians, I'd believe you. But it's trippy to talk about. You are more or less your entire world and your universe in your mind. But in the grand scheme of things, you are but an ant, if that. So I like that talking little intro. And then when that kicks in, right away, I was thinking, oh, Jesus Christ, this is going to build up and I'm going to go nuts. And the way that builds up in that bass, that down, 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 it's so good. I had goosebumps immediately. And the day that dropped, I probably listened to that song 40 times in a row. This is one that it has those summer feel-good Blink vibes to it. And it's not something that I can just define as a tempo or a specific key or, whatever. It's not something that I can define. I just feel it. And I feel more or less like that take off your pants and jacket, summer Blink vibes on this. Kind of similar to like First Time on 9. It gives me that same beat because when you get to that chorus, you're just cruising. It's that really upbeat, and I just love it. Like, this song is absolutely amazing to me. I would put this over 85% of One More Time in my listening rotation, no doubt about it. And this just got me even more hella hype for this part 2. Because if this was even a sliver of what we were going to get, I was going to be super stoked. One of the things that really stood out for me is the bridge. And I think this bridge is important for a couple reasons. One, right away, when you hear this, to me, I was like, that is a Lifeforms bridge. That is Tom Lifeforms. And the beauty there is he's comfortable bringing that to Blink. And it reminds me of just where we were on Lifeforms, where I alluded to Tom finally being comfortable enough in Angels to do whatever the fuck he wants. Like, I think there's that No More Guns song that, to me, that would never make any previous Angels album. But in Lifeforms, in this era, he was comfortable with it. I feel like that is now the comfort level in Blink, where you have something like a Lifeforms, very Angels sounding bridge, but it's in Blink and it works. And so when you hear Tom come and sing on that bridge and then Mark's bass underneath it, I could cry. I could cry. This is exactly what I want these dudes to be doing in 2024. I thought it was so fucking awesome that we have this perfect blend of all these dudes in 2024, happy, functioning band, you know, touring the world, just everybody having the best time, playing the biggest shows ever. It's just insane. The second takeaway I had there, and this was just reflecting on where we were, you know, the last time Tom was in the band with Dogs Eating Dogs and Neighborhoods. In my mind, if this was a Dogs Eating Dogs or Neighborhoods era song, this would have been an instrumental bridge. Back in that era, if you go listen to those songs, there's really never like a singing or U-turn of a bridge. It's very much they go out, they do an instrumental breakdown, Travis rolls us in, and we kick it off into the final chorus. To me, this is growth and unity. I know you may think I'm overthinking this, but this is how my brain works when I'm thinking about it and listening to it for the first time. If this was back in that era, I think they would have gone instrumental here and then came back in hard and rolled out the song. But it speaks volumes to me that they're comfortable with this more or less a Lifeform sounding bridge, and Tom bringing in what he brings to the table, Mark's going ham on the bass there, and, you know, we just have this beautiful song. So, I mean, this to me, I had a note the first time I wrote it, R.L. Stine, it means I got goosebumps. Banger. Absolute banger. I love the line there where Mark comes in, a ship far from the shore. That's a hoppus. I've said that in the past. There are certain parts, certain lyrics where they sound so simple on paper, but it's beautiful. You don't really hear it elsewhere. Mark comes up with it. And to me, this is another great example of where they're painting a picture. This is an artist getting a paintbrush and painting a picture for you in your mind. He could have said, I'm real far away, so far away from here, but he doesn't. He says, a ship far from the shore. It's next level shit. If you write your own shit, try to implement this type of poetry because it's beautiful. It's really, really awesome. So I cannot say enough about this. This song is just one that is top tier Blink for me. No doubt about it. I feel like I'll be banging this forever. On Wednesday, as I mentioned earlier, we got the text to jump on and listen to a couple songs. And I was so stoked that Can't Go Back was one of those, because this is one of those songs that since the first time I heard it, I've not been able to get it out of my head. It's so catchy that my son is still singing it, and he hasn't even heard the official song. He's still singing it a week or two ago. He was humming, please don't bring back down. It's so, so catchy. So I could not wait to hear from a production standpoint, what did it sound like? Were there any major changes? Is it more or less follow what it sounded like live? So I was stoked to get this preview of that. I love the drum intro. And I will say right away, the guitar tone was a little grittier and gnarlier than I had expected, which is great. In fact, it really reminded me more or less of like a boxcar guitar tone. I don't know why, but I noted it more or less reminded me of like an All Systems Go, or like a Watch the World or something. Like, I don't know, that guitar tone there, it's very Untitled / Boxcar Racer-y, which is great because the vibe of this song is just a really cool blend, I think, of everything once again. I mean, this is kind of a deep, dark song lyrically. However, I feel like there's hints of Plus 44 in it. I feel like there's hints of Boxcar, more or less, with the tones, how some of the drums sound, but it's just a really, really cool vibe. One of the things that surprised me a little bit compared to when I had heard it live is that outro on guitar. You can kind of hear some of the riff being played. I didn't quite catch that when I had heard it live a couple times, so that was awesome. And man, I'll tell you, I will be playing this over and over and over. I absolutely love this song, and I think it's one that is very, very catchy. You know, I don't know if this would be like a radio hit per se. I don't know. You know, it really doesn't change gears too much. It's not like the bridge takes you in a totally different direction, and then it more or less just kind of fades off into eternity. So it's kind of a weird, it's kind of put together oddly and very simply, but it's so catchy and that melody is just so amazing that you just want to listen to it over and over and over. So can't go back. I am so stoked to have that official release. I'm still shocked that they played that the whole tour. I mean, really the first show they busted that out, and I really hope the fans dig that one. Every Other Weekend. This is kind of a different track for Blink. I feel like this one is definitely more in the alternative realm. It's very, very catchy, and I think Mark's lyrics in the verses are relatable to a lot of folks. This is a good example of earlier I mentioned how sometimes you can write with a muse in mind, like a story. You're writing something that people can relate to, and they do that actually multiple times on this part 2. I think the chorus is really catchy on this. The bum 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 bum. Even that, just after a couple listens, is already stuck in my head. I like when it slows down and you get the acoustic strumming in the background. But overall, yeah, I think this is a catchy, fun song. I think the lyrics in the verses and the way they're delivered are really like, it's great and pleasing to the ears. It's quite nice. And I wrote down, it's pretty. It's just a pretty sounding song. So I dig this one. This one kind of caught me by surprise. But what is once again a theme on this, we saw this in the OG one more time, is the versatility. This is all over the board and I love it. So let's jump into track 7, Everyone Everywhere. My God, this song is absolute fire. Holy shit. The first time I listened to this song, I was blown away. This is not like any Blink we've heard before. Super experimental, bit of a space intro, but it's heavy. Mark in the verses. This is that teaser we got long ago that I could not wait to hear the full song on because I wasn't sure if that little clip was a bridge or the verse. It ended up being the verse. It's the second verse in this song where Mark comes in. It's slightly robotic. It's a tad robotic, but it's rad. And that's when Mark goes, no self-control, I lost the plot, I faked the role, there's an imposter in my mind. Like, that delivery is so sick. These verses are gnarly. I love when Tom comes in for the chorus. I actually kind of like the meaning of the chorus when you look at the lyrics. The break it up, tear it up, shake it up, take it out back to kill it, bury it, accidents from the mind. So the way I interpret that is, you know, if you make a mistake in life or accidents happen, I mean, shit happens, and you don't have to necessarily let that linger and blame yourself for it. Just take it out back, bury it, kill it, and free your mind of it. So I like the meaning there. And then when this like little bridge solo breakdown thingy comes, shit, I thought we might get a growl in there for a second. I was ready to hit a 2-step and jump around in a pit. This is sick. This is such a sick song. So right away, I mean, fresh out of the gate, this is easily my top 2 or 3 of the part 2 songs we've heard thus far. I think this is a really cool blend of really experimental Mark, experimental Tom, Travis is going ham, all blended together on this. It's just honestly insane. I have a note that it almost reminded me of like Fighting the Gravity meets Angels and Airwaves. I don't think I hear a ton of like Simple Creatures in it, but it's just really experimental and sick. So this one has absolutely blown me away. Let's see where number 8 takes us. This song is called If You Never Left. This song is really interesting in that it starts with the chorus. So at first I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is kind of like Every Other Weekend where Mark is singing and it just sounds really pretty. But that's really the chorus. And then Tom comes in with the actual verse and then it goes right back to that. And this chorus is huge. Like one of the notes that I jotted down on first listen to this is a big, catchy chorus. I can picture people just screaming this at the top of their lungs. I feel like this one has single potential. It's that catchy, has a mass appeal. I think lyrically, again, this is something that they're writing that people can relate to. I don't know that they dug down into their own well and experiences on this, but it's reflecting about an ex and what life could have been, maybe had you stuck together or if things were different these days. So it's a pretty cool song. I really like the bridge. Mark comes in there, switches it up quite a bit, and then it really kicks into gear. Travis gets to kicking towards the back end of this, and it has a pretty rad outro to it that gets going pretty quick. So I dig this song. Again, extremely versatile. This one's extremely catchy. To me, I still just can't stop thinking about Everyone Everywhere right now and all in my head. But I'm really impressed with these. I think the production on them, everything sounds great on these. So only a couple more here, one of which I had already heard. Let's see what One Night Stand sounds like. This song has a sick drum intro. I love the way Travis kicks this one off, runs through a couple bars that way. I tell you, this song is super experimental, it sounds like to me. Like, this is crazy. I'm going to need like several days to dissect some of these because, man, they are really going all across the board here on different sounds and vibes. Like, this is such a cool vibe to it. I almost get like an indie, like Naked and Famous type of vibe to it. Like, I love when the chorus kicks in, that, ooh, yeah, do you ever recall me, pal? Been loved so well. They're telling a cool story there about the one night stand and if it was truly that. So, yeah, this one is a vibe in and of itself, no doubt about it. I like that build up there with the Do I Run part. And again, I can't say it enough. It's just the versatility of this stuff is blowing my mind, and taking these influences from all over that they've all had in all their bands throughout all these years and finally combining them together. Not being selfish at all in any capacity. It's just really cool. So this one's sick. Again, I still can't get Everyone Everywhere out of my head at this point. Number 10, Take Me In. This is the other one that crashed the website on Wednesday. I'll tell you, I would be very curious to know when this song was written. To me, when I listened to this, and even when I heard the teaser super early on, which eventually we now know is Mark's second verse, it sounded like a closer to me. So I'd be curious to know if this was written during those initial sessions and maybe left off the album for being too similar to Childhood, or they already had their closer with that one. I could see this being a closer on a random Blink album or anybody's album. It just kind of has that vibe to it. I think lyrically, Childhood obviously fits better and was the right call. But this is a pretty song. Like, I like the vibe of it. Once again, they're creating really unique vibes that I don't know that we have in Blink prior to this. I mean, this is crazy. Some of these that we've gone through, it's really all over the place. And that's what you want out of a deluxe. You know, California Deluxe, you get stuff all over the board, from super dark to super quick pop punk, skate punk with something like a Parking Lot or something like that. So you want that. I think in the band's eyes, these are more or less like leftovers from those sessions. Obviously, there may be some of these that are newer or were written after that 2023 tour, or maybe even during it. Like, we know Can't Go Back was written more recently. But some of these, my understanding, are leftover from those initial sessions. That would actually be a good question if I ever get a chance to pick the band's brain. In my mind, it's like, what constitutes a deluxe as opposed to keeping this stuff for a future album or EP? Like, what's that cutoff? Is it they were in the same sessions, thus they have the same vibe. We were at the same point in life, etc., that kind of stuff. I'd be curious to hear their perspective on it. But to me, this sounds like one that perhaps was written during those sessions and may have been too similar to a childhood vibe or a closer vibe, and they already had that, and obviously had quite a few songs for the OG release. But yeah, I mean, I think this is cool. Tom's verse at the beginning, I like how we get a deeper Tom. We don't always get that. It has a big chorus. The drums kick in. Travis crushes all of this, as always. No surprise there. Mark's second verse there, I like how they kind of have a unique, almost first part of their verse where they're flowing one way, and then they kick it into another gear and start going in a higher register. So I really like when Mark comes in with the hand over fist as I crawl through this ditch where I find I'm left for dead, trapped in a nightmare. I'm dreading the part where we drive off of the edge. That verse in particular stuck out to me as just pretty sick. Paints a picture for you for sure. So yeah, I mean, good Lord, out of the 10 songs here, 8 net new per se, 2 we had for some time, but man, I'm trying to think of what my favorites are. I think off the top, First Impressions, All in My Head is definitely up there. I don't think that would be a surprise. I mean, you all know me. If anything even has a remnant of take off your pants and jacket vibe and summer energy, that's going to rise to the top for me. I think Everyone Everywhere, just because of how sick and kind of experimental and that robotic element and just being aggressive, a little bit of almost metal sounding breakdown there. To me, that's fucking gnarly. I can't wait to just blast that one. And then number 3, I would say, is probably Can't Go Back. So that actual release lived up to the hype that I've had in my mind for 2 or 3 months whenever that tour finally kicked off. So yeah, I mean, my biggest takeaway on all of this is that it's extremely versatile, fresh out of the gate. I mean, it covers all the vibes you could even begin to think of and want. It's got a little bit of something for everybody. I firmly believe that. The second takeaway I have from that is there are no boundaries in Blink right now. And that is great. I mean, that is what you want. You want to be able to put out what the dudes authentically want to put out together. And to me, when you listen to this stuff, it's not that one person's getting their way. As I mentioned earlier, some of these songs, you really can't even tell where it originated. So to me, that is a perfect compromise. And Tom and the band have said themselves in the past, that is when Blink is at its best, is when all 3 are in a room together. They all bring their ideas. They're respectful. And the final product is somewhere in the middle. So yeah, while there are elements of some of these songs that you may say, oh my gosh, that's definitely an Angels and Airwaves sound per se, or tone, it doesn't stay there necessarily. It still gets pulled back into Blinkland. Same with some of the Mark stuff. You may say, oh, this sounds a little Plus 44-ish, or this sounds a little Simple Creature-ish. And that's good. You want artists to grow. You want them to pull from past experiences and ultimately just be writing the stuff that is genuine and authentic at that point in time for them. So yeah, hats off. This is sick. It's always a good day when you get new Blink. I think once again, the best way I can put this is it sounds like Blink in 2024. And to me, that is the ultimate compliment. A lot of these songs, there is nothing in their discography that I can say, oh, that sounds exactly like that. That's a rip off of that. They reused this riff there. I can't. I mean, I've listened to most of these songs once or twice at this point. So it's like, yeah, maybe I'll end up hearing that whenever I pop headphones on or listen to it more. But I think my initial thoughts on it are, this is some fresh Blink in 2024. We just got like the sickest tour ever, really coming off of back-to-back years of it. So I really hope you all got a chance to catch those shows and are enjoying this time with Blink. It's just an exciting time, and I know I preach to the choir here, but really cherish it, because you don't know how long this stuff is going to last. You don't know how many years it'll be until they're near you. I would fully expect some downtime this upcoming year. I think they have a handful of shows, like festival shows, the rest of the year, maybe the Mexico makeup date. But man, these dudes have gone hard the past 2 years. I'm tired just following them from my couch. So I can't imagine how wiped out they probably are. But it's good. You know, it had been a long time since these three in particular had been able to do that and conquer the world. And I think for all of us, and the band would probably say so themselves, it's blown away their expectations. And it's just a really cool time in Blink. So that's my thoughts on One More Time Part 2. I am gone next week. I knew if I did not get this out today, it was not going to happen. And I wanted to get these out to the listeners. So let me know your thoughts on the new songs. Let me know which ones are your favorites. Do you agree with any of my takes? Am I crazy? Drop the comments below. And if you enjoy it, please share the pod. Just Blink fan trying to do cool stuff for Blink fans and have some rad conversations about the band that means so much to us. So thanks for hanging out. Talk soon.